any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay. And
Okay.
can you tell the court why you were living there? How often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. It was a thing with the keyboard, things that play music and so forth and so on. So.
Now, when you moved in 2019, and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. I met him. That was the first time I'd met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Ms. Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Ms. Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities, and Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys, and he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in this seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So do you share time or split time between Los Angeles and Georgia?
Actually, I'm working on a documentary film, and I'm supposed to be being filmed not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary if we don't have another actor strike and we don't have another writer strike.
So do you own property in California?
No, I don't. I live with a friend of mine.
Live with a friend of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first move? Let me qualify with the dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go any place. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In 2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
No, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got the driver's license. I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring, summer. I see that in my notes. So spring, summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring, summer 2019, where did you live?
I lived in Johannesburg. Well, I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Free Mandela and get that, and someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
Okay. So let's just focus in on the period from, let's just start with October 2019, okay? We'll call that the relevant period. October 2019 until the end of 2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's move to 2020, okay? And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's start in 2020. All right, so 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No.
You didn't travel at all that year?
No.
So,
And I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
So that entire year, 2020, you remained here in Georgia?
Right.
In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy time as I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I pitched I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script I was trying to sell. So I tried to sell that, and I just happened to mention something that happened during the civil rights movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested, and so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
You keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival, and that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, you know, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live. Did
Right.
you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, now you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me, and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company, and there was a dispute between me and that, and I just I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with almost $300,000?
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's.
Why is the money he got from the sale relevant at all?
It's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on though.
Right.
Okay. When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay. So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
Yes.
the next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
You said that you met Mr. Wade that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember? Okay. And I wasn't really clear. You said something about meeting him. Was it with Mr. Isikoff, or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in, and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office and
Where were you being interviewed?
at the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that?
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day?
No.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that.
Oh, at your daughter's swearing in. Okay.
Right.
That's all I have. Just one moment, Judge. Nothing else. Thank you.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm fine. I'll try to ask you some specific questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is State's Exhibit Number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was unclear to me, maybe no one else, but it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable. I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it, when was your daughter, Miss Willis, when was she sworn in as district attorney?
On January 1, 2021.
Okay. And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it, was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is, the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something, but she always would come with her security.
Okay. My question was poorly worded, I apologize. Did she come back permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely not.
So as far as you're aware, that once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton House, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. It just,
That's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take, 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know. because I was not, you know, if somebody stuck a gun to my head and I could tell them, I wasn't going to tell them anyway, or I'd have made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you did or visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh, I never did.
Never did?
Never did.
Okay. Do you know how long she stayed at the first place that she went to after she left her house before she moved to a second place?
What I know, and this is hearsay, counsel, is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place. I was taken one time for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times. Because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than maybe 3 hours because of, you know, the nightmare threats against her and me.
And I understand that, and from the perspective of being a father myself, I understand what that means. So I'm going to move away from that. I was just trying to get an idea of date-wise, okay? So let me try to get one more date. In 2023, when you were being interviewed by one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's office, and Mr. Wade came in, can you give us, other than 2023, what the date would be?
I'm sorry, I can't, counsel.
How about spring, summer, any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't.
Okay.
I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Miss Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Miss Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019.
Correct.
And you met him on one occasion, several occasions?
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean there was no secret that she was dating this man?
Not from me.
Not from you?
And not, he was a disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, play music. So he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And, you know, anyway.
But Ms. Willis, your daughter didn't keep him from you, correct?
No.
No, I mean, there was no doubt he...
I mean, we lived in, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, you know, he came and went, you know.
Right. Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago when it, as a matter of fact, I just found out when other folks found out. Okay.
But is your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that she dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is, whatever the relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know.
Mr. Stockton.
No.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Floyd. Correct.
Yeah. Good morning, Counsel.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, if I might, when I was just, she was just, you know, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, you know, with the credit card, for whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, you know, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, I mean, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions, so some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes, and as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her, always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's all I got, Judge.
Mr. Durham.
No questions.
Mr. McDougald.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Rice.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, counsel. How are you?
Just fine. Just a few questions following up. When you were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone, but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at the Hyatt Regency Resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she was going out of the country or something. She'd be gone. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
It's the same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now, in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023 that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade, to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kucherov. On Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either,
We
but
can take a moment.
good morning, counsel.
We can take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kucherov. Sorry. We need
Your Honor, I'm on a phone, so it's kind of difficult.
Can you turn your screen on, though?
I'm trying to. Does that work?
Just to hold one more moment? All right, there we go. You can proceed, Mr. Kucherov.
Sir, you seem to know about the issue of cash in this transaction. You said it was a black thing. How did you know that the cash was going to be an issue in this testimony?
Because I was asked for it and I was prepped by the lawyers and they asked me about it. What else?
And did you speak with Mr. Wade about your testimony?
No.
Did you speak with your daughter about your testimony?
She may have been present when the lawyers were. I really don't remember.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
What do you? Maybe I'm not understanding your question, counsel. So maybe you want to restate. What is it that you're asking me?
Yeah, if it wasn't clear, I can re-ask the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Mr. Wade. If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
I did not know that they were dating. And when were you talking about the cash? I didn't know that. I don't know what you're asking me. What I told my child from the time she was a child is always have some money. Always have some money. If you go on a date so that people don't try to stick you and you want to leave whoever, always keep some cash, okay?
Mr. Floyd, you answered the question that the attorneys prepped you for that, so that's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, Mr. Sheriff?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cromwell.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Abadi?
Your Honor. Mr. Floyd, now, it wasn't common for your daughter to confide in you about her romantic life at all.
No, and I haven't confided in her about mine before when I had one, okay?
Hate him.
And you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey.
Hey, Debs.
Got an objection?
I think that might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overruled.
I have nothing further.
Did he answer the question?
He said that's correct.
All right. By show of hands, any redirect on those points only. Ms. Merchant.
Yes. I just wanted to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Google, you can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot, and, you know, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to appear in front of Your Honor.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Cross.